Welcome back. The news at 10 continues in our Abuja studios. Here's Linda Kebe standing by. Hi, Linda.
Hello, Amarachi. Over 270,000 Nigerian refugees in Cameroon and neighboring Republic of Chad are voluntarily returning to the ancestral lands amidst daunting challenges of inadequate amenities and rising security concerns. The United Nations Refugees Agency has described the situation as deplorable and calls for an urgent implementation of a tripartite agreement signed in Cameroon 2 months ago.
The last 3 weeks has seen an influx of voluntary refugee returnees from Cameroon and neighboring Republic of Chad following a tripartite agreement signed by the governments of Nigeria, Niger and Cameroon in March this year. That agreement, brokered by the United Nations, specified conditions to be met by the Nigerian government and the country of asylum before refugees who are willing to return are allowed to do so. At this conference in Abuja, representatives of the United Nations Agency for Refugees expressed serious concern over the conditions that the refugees are returning to in Nigeria.
The problem is most people actually go to Banki because indeed Banki is the area of origin of most of them. But today, in the conditions that Banki is, it cannot take that kind or that number of populations.
These returns actually started since the end of since 2015. They started going back, traveling to areas of return, but the security conditions do not yet allow for most of them to reach their final destination, which are their places of origin.
The United Nations is calling for full implementation of the tripartite agreement to improve the living conditions of the refugee returnees. Meanwhile, the federal government says it needs some time to perfect that agreement.
In reality, does not have a time frame, but normally the time frame should be worked out by the tripartite commission on how it will be implemented. But the agreement itself did not say it must commence today and ends next tomorrow.
Although the voluntary refugee returnees from neighboring Cameroon and Chad are happy to be home again, the UN agency says there is need to improve their living conditions.
The House of Representatives has stated its concern over the number of abandoned federal government projects across the country, despite a glaring infrastructure deficit. The House has mandated a joint committee to ascertain the number and location of all ongoing and abandoned critical federal government capital projects across the country. The committee, which is also to determine the amounts committed, paid or outstanding on all the projects, has 8 weeks to complete its work. The Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, has been explaining some of the challenges militating against adequate electricity supply in the country. He attributed some of these to the damages to pipelines that supply gas to power plants, as well as poor billing arising from inaccurate estimation of electricity consumption. Mr. Fashola was speaking on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily.
2,690 megawatt of energy on May 29, 2015, the day President Buhari took office. Yesterday, on May 29 this year, it was 4,014. We grew to 5,074 in February 2016. From then on, we had 16 consecutive attacks. Metering is a big issue. And these are the issues that the power sector recovery program is trying to re-engineer backwards.
So that was faulty?
It has to be faulty, Chamberlain. 6 million consumers of electricity in the whole of Nigeria, 6 million households. Now let me tell you how faulty that can be. First of all, in 2006, we did a census. I was in government then as Chief of Staff, and we enumerated 4.5 million households in Lagos alone. Now, Lagos was returned with about 9 million population. That suggests, which was around the same population, disputed though it may be with Kano. So that suggests that Kano will also have about 4.5 million households if they have similar population. So 2 states in Nigeria already had 9 million households. Let us say that at least 50% do not have access to electricity. That leaves us with 4.5 million in 2 states. Then what happened in 34 states and FCT? That figure has to be wrong. So even the amount that they are paying now may well turn out to be a commercial amount if we have 12 million people paying without having to increase.
So from Abuja, back to you, Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Linda. 9 out of 12 people killed by armed Fulani herdsmen in Logo local government area of Benue State on May 7th have been buried. The attack came 3 days after the State House of Assembly passed the Open Grazing Prohibition Bill, which prescribes a 5-year sentence for trespassing herdsmen. Although the state governor, Mr. Somalotom, has signed the bill into law, the invaders' attacks have not abated. Our community report tonight looks at the plight of a grieving community.
Etisola, now you're talking.
It's a difficult time for the residents of Logo local government area of Benue State. They've been exposed to an attack that is shaking their community.
The attack left 12 people dead. We are dealing with some very, very violent and wild people.
Now, all they have to show for it is the men bottle up their pain with their faces. These men were killed when the community was attacked by Fulani on the 7th of May. An act that snuffed out the local government. When it appeared that the State House of Assembly was finally getting a grip of the situation by passing a bill which would contain the activities of the despondent-looking men and women listen to the preacher read the messages of life, hope, and forgiveness with mixed feelings. How easy is it to forgive those who find no problem with killing just because they want to feed their families? This man sees the grazing bill as the best way to enforce peace.
Nobody has fired a shot at the Fulanis, but we're following the law legally so that we secure the land for the farmers who know nothing else but farming. Because the only industry the people of Benue know is farming. So if you come and take over the land and you're grazing and it results to a point where you will now begin to kill and maim, then it's very unfortunate.
This structure is said to be where the attackers hid when they took the community by storm. This woman also lost members of her family to the violence.
This is where they came and fetched. Nobody suspected herdsmen to come take over. Yeah, but that's where the remains of my father and my mother.
Although the governor has since signed the anti-grazing bill into law, which should reduce the tension, it will take a lot more than a legal document to make this community forgive and forget. It will take heart and concrete action.
Etisola, now you're talking.
Let's check in on the world of business now. Here's Anne Mawudo.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Amarachi, and welcome to Business News. The Nigerian stock market has ended the month of May with a record performance gain of 1.21 trillion naira on its market capitalization in just 20 days. The general index also shot up a record 13.66% in the same period. The managing director of Afri Invest Securities, Mr. Ayodeji Yebo, attributes this to the improving macroeconomic policy environment, but he believes there is still room for growth.
If this positive momentum continues, we should still be able to do another 1 to 2 trillion naira. When you compare the multiples, the whole market with some of our peers, the Ghana Stock Exchange, it's around 18 times price to earnings, 18 times. You look at the Kenya market, around 19 times. We are still around the 13th average P or 13 times. That still shows that there's still room for growth. Market fundamentals to an extent have also been right, but because we know that some of the economic fundamentals will also affect the fundamentals of these companies. So you can't dissociate or separate whatever is happening from the economy also from the market.
And talking about the Nigerian equities market closing positive today, it ended 0.7% higher with a month-on-month return standing at 14.52%. Chimezie Obiwagu tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Midweek trading ended in the green despite the profit taken on GT Bank and Zenith Bank. The all-share index, after trading in the negative for hours, jumped into the green before the closing gong to close the day and the month up by 0.76%. This is all thanks to the industrial and consumer goods sectors, which saw gains on Dangote Cement, Nestle, Unilever and Nigerian breweries. The market capitalization is still at 10 trillion naira. The banking stocks remained the major volume drivers, with FBN Holdings, Diamond Bank and Fidelity Bank at the top. In all, a total of 343.19 million shares were traded in 4,905 deals valued at 3.33 billion naira. Market breadth was positive as 31 stocks posted gains while 19 posted declines. USC Properties was the highest gainer, up 9.82%. Mansard Insurance and Law Union followed in that order. On the price decliners table, the three top losers, Seplat, GT Bank and NEM Insurance, all lost by 5% each. And that was the Stock Market Report. I'm Chimezie Obiwagu.
Thanks a lot, Chimezie. Well, for traders in the U.S., the month of May closed with the S&P 500 up nearly 8%. VOA Channel's TV business correspondent Jill Malandrino reports from the Nasdaq market site in New York.
Thursday, May 25th was the 100th trading session of the year for the S&P 500 index, and two things stand out about the action so far this year. First, the bulls are clearly in charge as the S&P 500 was up almost 8% as of day 100, the fourth best start to a year going back 20 years. Second is a lack of volatility. LPL Financial took a look at some stats to determine if this is in fact a historically low vol environment. As of 100 trading days, the S&P 500 has had an average intraday range of only 0.5%, breaking the previous record from 1995 of 0.69%. Only had 4 days close up or down at least 1%, the least since 1972. Incredibly, in 1964, there had been no 1% moves during the first 100 days, traded in a range from high to low of 7%, the seventh smallest range to start a year since 1950. The logical question now is, what does a good start to the year after 100 days mean? We took a look at some more stats going back to 1950. The S&P 500 was up at least 7.5%, just like 2017 was 23 other times.
Let's turn our attention now to other major world markets and see how they fared today. Thank you for watching Business News Tonight. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Amarachi.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10, Victor Moses and other top Super Eagles stars dropped from team line up as a coach General Raw. That's coming up in sports news. Please stay with us.